Hey guys, it's Gary back again. We're going to work on the customer bike today, the one I was telling you all about. This bike belongs to a good friend of mine named Shannon. She's had the bike for a long time, but it has been sitting a little bit here for the past few years. Let me flip it around here and show you all kind of what's going on with it. Alright, so this is a 06 Road Glide that she bought with very few miles on it, about 15 years ago or so. It's really clean. It's been sitting for a while. She does still start the bike and run it. I've got it on the jack right now. What we're going to do is I've got a new set of tires for the bike right here. So we're going to jack it up, take the wheels off from it, check the wheel bearings, the brake pads, all that good stuff. Just make sure everything's still good and tight on it. Bike just barely has over 40 something thousand miles on it. Got a lot of life left in it. It's a real cool looking bike. You can't really see it in the camera, I don't think, but it's a real pretty gray. Has a lot of metal flake in it. Has some good looking stripes and stuff on it. Has the satin motor. That's not really my thing, but everybody's different. This one's been kept real clean. It still looks good. But what we're going to do is dive in on the wheels first. I'm going to start on the back. This has the off-shaped cam that turns, that tightens the belt up. I always mark all that stuff before I take it loose, and I'll kind of show y'all how I do that. That way, if somebody else is changing one, it just makes things a whole lot easier to get everything in line and make sure that your belt's tight properly and all that good stuff. We're going to dive in on this thing and see where we get to. Thank y'all for tuning in. Let's see where we can get. Okay guys, we're fixing to start in on this bike. Just going to go over a few things here with you real quick that I like to do. So, as you can tell, this bike has what I call a cam and lever system, the way it tightens the belt. It's got this odd shaped plate right here that slides on the axle nut. It's oblong, and as it goes down or up, it gets bigger or smaller. And that's what pushes your axle backwards and forth. So what I like to do is, there's a notch right here that you can see. And what I'll do is I'll take my Sharpie and I'll make a mark on this side, and on the other side it's the same way on the other side. Here, I'll show you. So it's the same way on this side. You can see the notch right there. I like to take my Sharpie, make me a mark, and that way I know if I put it right back to that, the belt's pretty well close to being right. So I'm going to start with the back wheel first. I like to take this shock loose, rotate it up out of the way. I've got the bike jacked up right now on the center stand. I'll take this shock loose, and then we will have to take this header pipe loose and drop it down. Sometimes you can drop it down and get the axle to slide out. Sometimes you have to excuse me, sometimes you have to take it loose, the header pipe. We'll just see which one we got to do on this one. Everyone's a little different, it seems like. But I'm going to set this up, do a little time lapse, and I'll stop along the way at key points, kind of show you things that I'm doing. I just think that that would be the best way to go about doing this, to try to show everything. Now, this caliper is on a slide itself. It's got two little grooves in there that sets on this plate that slides backwards and forth, and then it hooks to the axle right here. So as you take the axle out, that will come loose and that can come back. We're going to check our brake pads, our wheel bearings and all that while we've got the wheels off. But Let me grab a few tools, set the camera up, and we'll try to start this process and see where we get to. Alright guys, what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to go ahead and take this pipe loose. Take it loose right there, right here, and see if I can get it to, sometimes they'll slide off pretty easy and sometimes they won't. If it does, it'll keep me from having to take the bottom shock off. I can just reach right in there and get the nut that I need to get. If not though, I'm going to spin the shock up and I can use a wrench and get to that if I have to. But we'll see how cantankerous they are, see if they'll come off. We'll just have to try it and see. Go from there. Okay guys, I took this heat shield off. All it holds it on is two little clamps, like radiator clamps. Just loosen them all the way up and it slides right off. Alright, now that's got us exposed to the pipe. This is the clamp here that holds the pipe on. I've done got it loose. The best way that I've found to get these pipes off without damaging them is this part right here is still covered by the cover. If you can get you something on here real good, like a pipe wrench or something, not make a bunch of marks, and get this to twist. Usually if you get it to twist just a little bit, you can work it backwards and forth and it'll come off. So that's what I'm going to try to do right now, and then we'll join back when we get something else accomplished. Okay, so I got the clamp loose, got the pipe laying there. Now I just grabbed a hold of it a second ago, gave it a good old twist from back here on the back. I can't do it with just one hand. I'm gonna set the phone down, twist it with both hands, and I'll come back and show you if it popped right off or not. I did get it to move though with my hand, so I think it'll come off. Okay, so a little bit of friendly persuasion, twisted a little with a pipe wrench, shake it just a little, now it'll twist, keep shaking, do the old shake and twist, the old shake and twist. Now, that freed us up some room to where we can get a hold of our nut. Next thing we need to do is we have a little safety pin right there. That's what holds the lock nut from backing off. So the easiest way to do them, for me, is I'll take a flat screwdriver, stick it under, just gently raise up. But now you have to take your other hand and hold over it, because sometimes these things will shoot across the room like a missile. And then sometimes they just barely pop up. But I'm gonna try to do this and hold the phone too. I'm gonna have to set it down, guys. And there's that. Okay, at this point, we can try to loosen the nut up, and then we'll go around to the other side and see if we're going to have to drop the pipe off the other side, or if we can just take this bracket back here loose. Sometimes you can take this bracket loose and get enough movement in the pipe to get the axle to come out. We'll check and see. Okay guys, I just wanted to show you what I was talking about on that cam and lever system there. See how this is narrower up here and it's wider down here? So the further you twist this down, the closer it moves the wheel this way. So the further you twist it up, the further it moves the wheel back, which in turn tightens your belt. So what I've done, there's a little notch right here on this swing arm. I made me a little mark at the top of the notch and a little mark at the bottom of the notch. I don't know if you can see that with the light. That might make it better. Made me that way, that gets me back in the ballpark of where it was at. And then of course I'll test it with a belt gauge to final set it all up, but that helps me get my wheel centered back in close to where it was at to begin with. And I did go ahead and take this shock loose because it just makes it a lot easier to get in on this big nut right here. All right, so let's go ahead and break him loose, and then we'll go around to the other side. Guys, just to recap here a little bit. So we marked her lever down here. Got the nut loose. It's ready to back off. Took the pipe off from this side. And I went ahead and took the shock loose right here too, just to give us some more room to work with that brake caliper when we go back together. Just makes it a little easier. All right, so on this side, I went ahead and I marked, I don't know if you can see it, I marked cam on this side too, so we can kind of get close to back to where we were at. All right, and I loosened the pipe up. This bike has the Y pipe, the factory Y pipe still on it. I don't know if you can see it in there or not. Right there, there's a clamp. I loosened that clamp, and that let this pipe slide down enough to where we can get the axle out. All right, so I'm fixing to take the axle out, slide the wheel forward, take the belt loose, and take the wheel off. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the sprocket and the rotor, because that's just less they have to do at the tire shop, and they don't charge me as much if I go ahead and take them off myself. So let me try to get the phone set up here where we can kind of time lapse a little bit of it. And guys, I use these center stands right here a lot. I've got the bike jacked up on it right now, but when I'm using a customer's bike, I like to go ahead and throw a strap on it too. I'll just run it all the way around the top of the jack, and that way it just kind of helps a little bit extra precaution on the bike going anywheres. Like I said, this belongs to a friend of mine. She's had the bike for a while, and I want to try to take care of it and see what we can do with it. I'm gonna try to clean on it some too. Little girls. Alright guys, let's get it started out. I'm just going to keep pecking on it a little at a time here. Alright, so I've got the axle drove part of the way out. One thing you got to be sure of is, I'll show you right here in a second when I get it out, but you'll have spacers on both sides of this wheel. There's one right here in between brake caliper, and there's one over here on this side. Don't get those mixed up, because if you do, it'll offset your wheel, your brake caliper won't go on, your brakes won't work, just all kinds of rigmarole that does not end up good. Let me finish getting this axle the rest of the way out. One good thing too, if you got something long enough when you drive it through, it holds the wheel kind of in place till you pull this back out of the side, and then you can raise the bike up and roll the wheel out. But anyway. Okay guys, I've got the axle out. Now right here is the spacer that I was talking about. All right, now what I do is I make me a pile and I keep everything on whichever side it goes to. So all this goes on the right side. And then everything that I'll lay on this side of it, I'll go on the left side. That's the spacer out of there. Now there's also one on this side. Now it sits back in the wheel just a little bit. We'll have to raise the bike on up a little probably to get it. I might be able to wiggle it out. Hang on just a sec. No, we're gonna have to raise the bike on up to get it out. But I'll get it out and show it to you too. It's made totally different, but still, it's just a good idea to try not to get them mixed up. Okay guys, now another thing you have to do is you've got to roll the wheel forward enough to get the belt off from it. What I do is I take my foot, roll up and under it like this, pick up on the tire, set it on my foot, push it forward with my back hand. Then you can reach in here with the other hand and kind of grab a hold of it and roll it off. Now, here's the spacer that goes on the left side. So what I like to do is I go ahead and stick it back on this axle like this right here. And that way I know that's the one that goes on that side. I'll lay the axle on the left side of my pile. Now, to get this wheel out, we've got to jack the bike on up because there's no way that it'll turn and come down out of there. It won't roll right out of the bike because of the fender. Now, I like to not jack it no higher than what I have to, but I usually just jack it high enough to where I can tilt it just a little bit like it is right now. You can tilt it a little bit on like a 45 kind of and slide it out. But you can do it whichever way you want. A lot of people don't care to jack it way on up. I just try to be careful. But let me jack it up here a little bit and we'll go from there. Okay guys, I got my caliper laid out of the way. Got the bike jacked on up. Got everything loose. I'm gonna see if the wheel will tilt and come out of here right there. And just like that, she's out. I'm not going to take the front wheel off tonight. So what I am going to do is I'm going to lower the bike back down some to where the front wheel is touching on the ground, because right now it's not. I just feel a lot better going to bed and sleeping at night knowing that it's there. The next time we start back on this, we'll probably be at the tire shop getting some tires on. So I'll just do the old YouTube magic and we'll start back when we're at the tire shop. Thanks guys. I lied. I forgot. I've got to take the front wheel off too, so we got to make a video on that. So, but I'm going to put the front and the back all in the same video. And then when we get the front off, I'll do the old YouTube magic thing, smack stuff, and then we'll go to the tire shop. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope this helps somebody. I hope you can I hope you get some kind of enjoyment out of it, whether it's just me being stupid or something crazy that I've done, or, you know, if you can just learn something from it, I hope. So, sorry guys, I forgot. We got to do the front wheel too. So, the whole YouTube magic thing that I was going to do is not going to work. I got to get the front wheel off too. So, we'll put the front wheel in this same video because it is a little bit different what you got to do to get it off. I've got the bike sitting on the jack so I can take the front wheel off too. That was the whole plan. So I'll try to get it off, and we'll get it to the tire shop and try to get them both changed at the same time. Try to get Miss Shannon's bike back to her. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Just stay tuned. We'll see where the ride takes us. Thanks. Okay, so we've got the back wheel off, and now we're going to try to do the front wheel. I'm going to go ahead and take it off and get both of them ready. Take them all at one time. Now, I'm going to set the camera down here and I'll just mention some of the key points on it. I don't think there's no point in time-lapsing the whole thing because you kind of get the gist of it with the back wheel. I think the front wheel's just a little bit more simple. But let me set the camera down here and we'll come back when we get started. Now guys, on the front wheel, just like on the back, it's got a few things that I like to do. So you have this clamping nut on this side. You don't loosen these up until you loosen your big nut up on the other side over here. And just like on the back, you have spacers on the left and on the right. And I like to keep those. Some people say there's not no difference in them. Some people say they are. I always like to mark them and keep them, put them back on the side that they go on. Now, one thing you have to be sure of too, which they have messed up on this bike, somebody has at some point in time, is these tires are rotational. So there will be an arrow that'll point, that'll show you which direction that this wheel turns in. And if you will look on this one right here, right there is the arrow. And as you can tell, they've got it backwards on this one. It's actually supposed to be turned around the other way. Now, I don't know if at some time somebody's had this front wheel off to check the brakes and they put it back on backwards, or if they mounted the tire backwards. But when I take a front wheel off, I'll find me a spot in here somewheres and under the rotor or somewheres, and I'll put a left and a right on it. That way I know which side the wheel came off from. Now, when I put this one back on, I'm going to put the wheel back on the way it is, but I'm going to have the tire mounted so that it's actually going in the right direction this time. So let me get some tools here and we'll take a few nuts loose. And then the way I do this is I take it all loose, get the axle out, and then we'll take the jack and just raise the motorcycle up and roll the wheel right out. And we'll check our brake pads and all that while we're at that point. So let me get some tools gathered up here and then we'll start on taking this wheel off. Okay guys, this is a 3/4 on this side. Just like to give it a good little hit there. She'll loosen right up. There's that. Then we'll come over to this side, stick my light up here. Come over to this side. I believe those are halves. 7/16 one. Let's see. you can do this pretty much with basic hand tools. It don't take anything elaborate. I use wrenches a lot more than I have to. I've got guns, ratchets, all that stuff. But for some reason, I just like to do it with wrenches a lot. Another thing I like to mark is the axle. The way they've got this one, you see, they've got the hole right there, right flush with the fork. So I just made a little mark on the bottom of it. That way I'll be sure to get it back pretty close to the same spot. You have a lock nut, 2 washers on this side of the bike. I'll lay them right here for now. I've got the clamp loosened up on this side over here. So with just a little peck, the axle should start coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and raise the bike up just a hair too. We're just barely off the ground. That's where I like to start at anyway. Okay, there's the shim that came out of the right side of the bike. Put me a little R on there. And I like to go ahead and slide it back up on the axle. Now this other shim, it probably won't come out till the wheel comes on up. It might kick it over enough to get it. Yeah, there we go. I'll put left on it. I'm gonna go ahead and slide it on the axle too, and then put my washers and my nut back on. That way I've got everything laid the way that it came off from the bike, just like that. And I'll lay it back here with the rest of the parts.
Now then, we should be able to just pretty much raise the bike up enough to roll the front tire out from under. I like to be real careful right here because I do have the bike strapped on the jack itself, and I've got it balanced pretty well. Now I have had it jacked up with the front wheel off, with the back wheel off, so I know it's not going to kick one way or another. But I still want to use caution doing this, because I don't think I would like to call Shannon and say, hey, sorry, but your bike fell off my jack. I don't think that would be a phone call that would go too good. Should be getting pretty close. See where we're at there. We're hung on the caliper just a little bit on this one side. There we go. And of course, I forgot something. You have to take the caliper off for the wheel to be able to roll out, because the wheel won't come out around the caliper. So, again, I told you, not perfect, forget a lot, but we'll get it. That should be a 7, I believe. Those bolts you have to have a 12-point socket or a ratchet wrench or a 12-point wrench. And these are actually metric. It's one of the few things you'll find metric on this bike, and that's the bolts that hold the caliper on. Now with these, you have a long bolt and a short bolt. I always like to stick them back in the caliper. That way I know for sure which way they go. So I'll just stick the short one back in here. The long one in here. I like to take a long ratchet strap or zip tie, I mean. Pull it up here out of the way where we won't hit nothing.
Should have zip tied that around. Okay, now we should be able to roll her out maybe just about. Not be able to kick it to the side there. There we go. So now we have the front wheel removed. I'm gonna let this bike down just a little bit, and then like I said, I'm gonna mark left and right on it. And now I'm gonna go ahead and remove these rotors. That way they don't have to do it at the tire shop. Just makes it easier for them. You're supposed to use new rotor bolts every time you go back together with one. These are torque to yield. So they say once they've been torqued, they stretch and that's it. I have a new set for this bike that I'll put in it when we go back with them. But I'm gonna take this out right now, mark it. Let me set the bike down just a little bit, and then we'll start back on pulling the rotors off. Okay guys, these are star-headed bits that fit these screws for the rotors. I like to take a ratchet first and make sure that I've got it in there real good and snug and try to break them all loose. Once they're broke loose, I don't care to take the gun and try to back them the rest of the way out. But I like to try to make sure that the socket is in there good and straight and that I'm holding it good and firm. That way, because if these things ever slip once, guys, then it's hard to do anything with. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But these all seem to break loose all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the gun and take them the rest of the way off. And I don't think you need to watch me back a screw out. I think everybody's got the gist on that. But that's the front wheel removed, and we'll have it ready here in just a second. Now there it is with the rotor removed. I did take my Sharpie and put me a little L in here. Put a little L in there, that way I know this is the left side of the wheel. That's the way it came off. Some people will say that it don't matter, they're the same on both sides. It may not matter. I just like to make sure that I put things back the way that I took them off. And I also marked the rotor, which come off the left side and which one comes off the right side. I marked those also. But so I've already broke these loose. We'll spin them off there real quick. When you go back with these, I always make sure you use a little bit of Loctite. They've already had Loctite on. When you go back with your new bolts, make sure you use Loctite on them too, because this is something you don't want coming off when you're running 70 miles an hour down the highway. And again, I'll just mark a little R on this for me. And then I'll mark a little R here. A little R in here. That way I know for sure which side is which.
Okay, that's got the front wheel ready to go. We'll roll the back wheel over here and take the sprocket and the rotor out from it, and we'll have it ready to go to the tire shop. I just knocked things around like it wasn't nothing. Did I? Okay guys, here's the rear wheel and tire. We have the sprocket on the left side. We're going to bust these bolts loose, take it off, and we have a rotor just like we do on the other one. On the other side, just like the front, it's just one single rotor. You've done seen me take the front one apart. I don't think you really need to see just exactly how to pull the bolts out of the sprocket, but I'm going to go ahead and get this done, and then I'll come back when we get done at the end of it. Thanks, guys. One thing that is worth mentioning, guys, is on these wheels, on your back wheel, your star heads are bigger than what they are on the front wheel. So, like on the front, I think they're a T40, and on the back, it's a T45 is what fits them. So just make sure that you don't try to use the same one on the back, because it will go in there, but it'll strip out. So just be careful. And if they seem too tight, it don't hurt to hit them with just a little bit of heat. These so far are trying to come loose pretty easy, so. Okay, guys, I believe I'm going to end that video off there. The next video will be us reinstalling the wheels and tires after we get the new tires put on, and cleaning the bike. I've got some stuff I'm going to do with that, and then we'll actually probably take it on a test ride and make sure everything's good with it. I hope you found this video a little bit interesting, hopefully helpful. Stay tuned and we'll put the bike back together, and we'll go from there. If you could, give me a like and a subscribe, and stay tuned. We're going to do some other things besides just mechanical work. We've got a few rides coming up we're going to go on, meet some people, do some things. We got some automobile content coming up. We're going to be working on a few cars, maybe even a truck, I think, maybe next week, but we'll see. Just stay tuned. Thanks again, and God bless.